Hello, hello, hello. This is Doc, aka Scrandito, aka El Hijo de Dr. Swagner Jr., aka Crying Tiger Mask, aka Chaco Chandeliger, aka Black Tiger for the Culture, aka Yan Yan Bigelow, aka The Great Bukaki, and you know, your host. Um, this is a special State of Wrestling that I just recorded with BJ Bethel, who you can see of SE Scoops. Also follow him on his Substack, uh, BJ Bethel, Substack.com, and also on his social media. And also, this is State of Wrestling, so of course I always have my big partner, mi pareja, mi gente, Arturo, aka American Numbers. You follow him on American Numbers on Twitter. This was, of course, a special presentation of State of Wrestling that came together sort of on the fly. We're going to cover a couple of things here, and I'll just let you guys get to it. Enjoy. Skip the theatrics because you already heard it. You already heard the intro. I got with us here. This is, of course, State of Wrestling. We got BJ Bethel. We got Arturo, mi pareja, mi gente. And we're gonna do a little, like, quick blast on some things. First big news item, of course, this week, AEW Las Vegas. Big news to come out of that was, the crowd just going and chanting "fuck ice," making news headlines everywhere. Uh, BJ, I believe someone contacted you about asking who this Brody King is.
Actually, I've had a few people asking me about. So, yeah, I'm sure everybody knows this by now, but NBC, CNN, NBC News aired Rupar, who's probably the number one kind of click or a video news aggregator on social media.
Big wrestling fan too.
Awful announcing. Just there's just so anyway at the Wednesday's Dynamite, and I'm speaking on. Let's see, the day is February 5th.
Six.
It's 6th if you're on the East Coast. But on Wednesday Dynamite, they had the Brody King versus MJF World Championship Eliminator match. As everybody, mostly people know, Brody King, he wore the Abolish Ice shirt at the CMLL crossover show earlier this last year. Well, as they were coming out, the fans started doing a loud vocal, and this is a Las Vegas crowd. They started doing a very loud F Ice chant. Bryce Rimsberg, the referee on Blue Sky, said he kind of took some credit for letting that chant ruminate a little bit before he rung the bell, which was interesting. That really, and
And
basically
MJF sold it.
the entire company's gone viral over the last
Yeah,
24
and
hours.
MJF, smart man that he was, sold it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone
MJF,
was, and they sold it so well. People was like, "Oh, he was startled by it." And it's like, no, he was not.
he's such
His
a
wife,
wrestler. He's fucking.
his wife is also an immigrant to America, I believe. I'm not sure. I
Yeah,
think
She's Palestinian. She's
yeah, she's
Palestinian.
Palestinian. So like, there's a whole,
And he's
MJF the
Jewish.
person, MJF the person is a good dude, you know, and like he really helped make Brody look great in that moment. The reason it's resonating right now is because in the United States there's this huge anti-ICE sentiment going on, especially in the mainstream. And for something like this to catch on the way it has, it's great. As somebody that's been affected by this, by the administration sort of like going in this direction and not feeling safe to go outside my house. Um, and the political sort of climate that's been since, the murder of like three innocent people, uh, three innocent people, and it's good to see, that some places and some fan bases aren't just like letting the current administration kind of run over him. Otherwise, we see another company run ads of promoting Donald Trump on
Well,
their own thing,
I
getting
mean,
booed by the audience.
I think it's. I think one of the things there's some context that's important here. I think that one, it's a swing state, right? So this
Yeah.
is not something that the promotion didn't push this, right? They
No.
have like Brody has been a vocal anti-ice person. That's something that has
Yeah.
happened. He was working with Bandito, who's a Mexican wrestler who's super over. Everyone loves
Yeah.
Bandito. He's like one of the next big stars.
Brody's
And so
also an LA guy. Gotta say, he's a SoCal LA
but
guy.
the AEW crowd has been known to go off and kind of like go into business for itself. And
Yeah.
really being a swing state, the crowd, kind of did that. I mentioned this, like the one live AEW show I went to, it was when MJF won the title at Full Gear in New Jersey, and I was about 2 seats away from the person who started the Fuck CM Punk chant. So and I helped. Like once he started, I was like, "Oh, okay, we're doing this, right?" So the crowd goes into business for itself, and it's a wrestling crowd. It's a very live crowd, and AEW is like gotten to the point where like they're getting in the zeitgeist. But what's really kind of interesting about this is when you're getting like a live sporting event just completely go off and do this on their own in a swing state. This is kind of like really an interesting moment.
Because I'm going to Dynamite on Wednesday in Southern California. If it catches on, if there's any place that where that chant is going to catch
Oh yeah,
on,
yeah.
I mean,
The problem is the thing about this is now it's going to become a thing. Like I heard some people were going to the Grand Slam show in Australia saying they're going to do the chant too.
yeah.
And
Shout
I'm
out to
like,
you guys.
I mean, it's interesting. I think if I were AEW, I would think about. It does seem like they are thinking about taking the belt off MJF at some point soon. Because I mean, obviously he was squashed in this match. I think they're moving that. I think this has been a good reign for him, but it's time for it. I think they probably are thinking about maybe Andrade or Kenny down the line, but maybe you kind of you would it be bad to do a switch for Brody? If you're looking to get viral, if you're looking to that and push that, that might be an interesting way to go.
Yeah.
Undo that, and it gives you a moment. It's a guy who's, and again, here's the thing with Brody. Brody's a guy who's a sweetheart by all accounts. He's a guy who's a great
Great guy.
worker. People love him. He's so freaking over. Like him and Bandito were like perhaps, I mean, arguably one of the most over things AEW had last year, right? And again, Bandito's great, but like it worked a lot because of Brody, right? Brody's.
Yeah.
I've been arguing that Brody at some point should get a push, and he did. He got a push last year, and he's getting a bit of a push this year. But maybe you kind of go in on him because he's a really good. He's a good. He's a
Great
good.
talent.
Weirdly, for a guy who looks like Brody, who's like a big guy, he's a guy who really comes off well when he talks, right?
Yeah.
And
Because we were watching this big Van Vader match, and we watched the post match, and you hear like the real Leon
yeah,
Ruff
the
come out.
crowd loves him. Yeah,
Absolutely
and
love.
the crowd loves, like, they love Brody, right? Like,
Yeah.
so this is a crowd that like it's really. But again, I think it's really interesting because one of the things I argued for a long time with AEW was that they should work on getting it so that they get live hot crowds, right? Because live hot crowds, which is how they got now, they're running smaller buildings with very hot crowds in very and this is giving them moments that are real, right? It's giving them
Yeah.
moments that are like unplanned. It's making it feel like a hot thing. And yeah, I mean, like the political aspect is really, but I think what's important is like you're getting to see the heart and the emotion of the people in the building, and the wrestlers get to play off that. It makes her such like I think the product has been as good as it's been in a while.
Ratings are showing
Because
that
of
also,
the
brother.
chase that we're kind of do that. TV's so good because we get that emotion and we get that feeling and we get these matches that kind of play off of that, and it works. It's just great.
Yeah. Because you were going over like the projected numbers with Dave Meltzer online on X, and
Well, the ratings. Oh, we can talk.
yeah.
We can talk a little bit about. We can talk a little bit about the ratings. I mean, that plays into that. So, and that was actually the other big news for the week. The way this initially broke, right? There's been some stories that Vanity Fair, like there was a Variety piece that talked about it. Nielsen, way back when, we noticed that the numbers when they put in they went from the old panel data to Big Data 1, and Big Data 1 was deployed in, I believe it was September 27th. And when they was deployed, the numbers for wrestling and some other sports fell, right? And I'm gonna forget Andy Nemedy from WrestleJoy, like looked at this as a data scientist and said, "Wait a second, I'm seeing this particular error, which is an error you used to have, you're not correcting for. And the error he's pointing out that the error that he was seeing is an error where, like, if you leave the cable box on, you switch off your TV, and you don't change the channel, the algorithm used to identify you when you're watching live sports like you're switching off your TV, right? So that as the show goes on, longer shows, which wrestling goes on for 2 hours. If somebody was watching the Big Bang, left it on and watches wrestling, as you start hitting the second hour, like, cable boxes start dropping because the cable box thinks that you're off, right? And he put in a request to Nielsen, said, "Hey guys, you check your stuff." And lo and behold, 4 months later, and he wasn't the only person to put that request in. I know they were like, the advertisers complained about it, like people in the industry complained about it. And so now Nielsen had commissioned a study, which was come in from the advertiser. There's a piece of Variety, talks about it, came in, and they corrected the numbers accordingly. And so, like, the way it first kind of like noticed it on the wrestling side, it was the TNA numbers were doing better than expected. Oh, the TNA numbers are up. Oh my God, why are the TNA numbers rising? And it turns out it wasn't the TNA numbers rising. It was that, like, there was a correction on the
50 to
side.
59. It was the 50 to 59 demographic.
Well,
They,
I actually, like, did the study, and it first hit on the top of the demographic, but then the later shows in the week, once people noticed that it wasn't hitting on the real demo, there were complaints, and then like, you see the correction in SmackDown number and the collision number. Both those numbers went up in the demo too, across the board.
Wow.
So it went down. Like, if you look back when they did the Big Data 1, numbers went down about 20-25%. If you look at this first week, numbers went up about 30-35. They went up higher at the end of the week. Collision went up like 200%. 200% in the overall and 100% in the demo. Collision did an insane number, right? Collision just, like, did the highest number they've done in like a year and a half. Collision is an interesting show because Collision is a show that, like, there's been arguments that, like, they measure that show wrong because it does really well when we've seen, like, plus 7-day ratings, right? But you were going to say something, BJ.
Yeah. So what led to this was back in December, the Video Advertising Bureau, basically they represent a lot of the video advertising, and commercial interest, things like that. The people buy ratings, people that are trying to measure their shows so they can sell commercial time. And they put a study together. It basically said that the Nielsen Big Data Plus panel was just totally flawed.
Well, I mean, like,
they wrote about it in Adweek. There were stories about it there. They called it they said they called Big Data Plus panel, they called it the worst case scenario. And then there's been some going back and forth about it. I'd say this was probably Nielsen's attempt to try to placate that.
I mean, I think when Andy kind of saw it and he explained what he saw, he said, "Look, the way this works is the way the panel data works. So the panel data takes polling over time, does analysis, and figures out, based on all this analysis and all this study that we've done, we figured out you basically take how to convert the polling that you're doing into, like, close to real data. And there's studies that you do to confirm that, right? Like the ad studies that you're seeing." And the ads, because there's other metric systems that, like, Peacock and NBC and all these guys have, and the ad guys have access to those numbers, and they saw the same thing we saw, which is the numbers didn't match what they were seeing in real time when they were looking.
Yes.
And they can confirm some of the numbers that are real from some of the other people, so they can confirm that. And again, like, this is exactly what happens when you train an AI model. They trained this model to try to, like, look like what the panel data was, but they fucked it up. And that first version didn't get it right, and we kind of know why they didn't get it right. Again, Andy Nemedy, WrestleJoy wrote an article and explained why they were off. And so they used the study data to retrain the model, right? And they did a release like 4 months after. So 120, basically good turnaround for, like, doing a complete rev of a model, about 120 days. Really.
I think, because they said that the numbers would be corrected by January, and we're here in February, and they have corrected. One of the big numbers we saw was, of course, for NXT, which hit like a high rating for their other show, and that brings us to my question.
But I think NXT didn't come in. NXT hasn't come in yet. So of the numbers, NXT did not move, right? But here's the thing: like, the Variety article claimed that, like, it was going to affect the cable numbers, not the broadcast numbers.
Oh,
So NXT may be shit out of luck. They may not like see any correction. But the
well,
other three shows,
that'll be interesting because
Right.
CW was one of the originals that went after this new big panel thing in
right?
November,
But
right
the
after they
Variety
announced it.
article said that it was going to be like, again, I'm monitoring it, so I feel like there was no move on the NXT number.
amazing.
There was like Dynamite went up, but it didn't go up in the demo as much as the others. But then like SmackDown and, as I said, Collision went up really highly. I'm going to keep monitoring for the next 4 weeks to kind of see what's going on. But there's a feeling that NXT might not rise because this is very specifically towards the cable box side. So this is towards the cable. Again, this is, if you read the article from Andy Nemedy, he's talking about it's a flaw with how the cable boxes measure this stuff out.
Speaking of
correcting.
Speaking of NXT, Arturo, where are their PLEs gonna go?
Well, I mean, let me finish before we get into that one. Let me finish out the thing on the ratings that it's important is, like, I think we were right. We were right when we called out that the whole panic on the ratings going down was stupid because even Nielsen and the ad buyers were saying, like, this is not right. And I think the other part is when I've actually done the study, and I'll mention this, BJ had done did an article talking about like the HBO ratings and the TBS ratings and how one matches up to the other. And when I do the mathematical analysis, the initial analysis that BJ actually did kind of still, like, the best case in terms of fitting the data is what he suggested at the beginning, which is like, I think at the beginning it was for every 10 TBS viewers, about 8 HBO viewers. And now it's more like 1-to-1, right? Because essentially as it's moved on, and again, I got this from Dave, the TBS numbers have fallen in terms of subscribers and the HBO numbers have risen, right? So now we're at a point where, like, you can assume it's probably 1-to-1 for Dynamite. But like, congratulations, dude. You were correct. We were correct. Before we get into the
another win for the prescription. Another
one
for the good guys.
We don't get these all right, but like, again, I think the point is we're going to have these conversations, and I'm going to explain the logic, and we're going to explain the logic. And if we get it right, we get it right. If we get it wrong, we get it wrong. And if we get it wrong, we'll come back and say, hey, we weren't completely right on this. This is what we think happened, right? And that's how you have a conversation.
I admitted I was wrong about Ciampa. I mean,
you were wrong about Ciampa. Yes,
I was wrong about Ciampa.
And so NXT. So one of the fascinating things that's happening, and this was a point that was brought up in one of the discords I'm in, is so the NXT PLE contract runs out in March, right? Yes. Where this is for the US. Where are these PLEs going to go? Are they still going to do these PLEs? There was an intimation in the original ESPN piece that they might absorb these. Maybe they give them to NXT for free. Maybe they wind up in AAA. We don't know. It's like, do we, like, BJ, do you think there's an interested buyer for these PLEs?
I don't know. I the thing is that people have even been asking about this on Reddit, like but I haven't seen anything about this. I haven't really talked about it. I think that I think this might be a thing where it's playing out. They may be trying to work something out where they can keep them on Peacock, or they may be just adjusting to see I don't think you'll see them on ESPN.
Why? I mean, why would Peacock keep them on though?
I don't know. I mean, just kind of the deal they make. But I don't know what they draw on Peacock on, but there's a whole lot of things at play. There's also business, corporate politics. That had a lot to do with ESPN's deal with TKO for the WWE shows. But I mean, I know there was some when they announced the ESPN deal and they announced it was moving early. It was stated that the NXT shows would remain, as you said, on through March. But there was also no one really knew if that deal had been extended. Nobody knew if
I mean, like, this is like when they're talking about, like, oh, we're gonna get AAA a distribution deal in the US. That hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same thing with well, look how long it was supposed to be 10 days after the Silva's announcement that they were going to have a TNA TV deal, and it took months.
And I think I think again that's a really interesting deal in terms of, like, it's basically an ad buy kind of deal.
And let me ask you something. NXT, what's their list of I'm trying to find their let's see, I'm gonna look up here.
The ratings?
Well, not the ratings, but just like what's their PLE schedule for the rest of the year? It's like
There isn't
Stand and
anything announced.
deliver.
because there's nothing.
I
No,
don't.
but
There's nothing
Oh,
out
they
there.
didn't
no,
announce stand and deliver, huh?
no.
No.
There's no announced
Wow.
PLE. So that's one of the reasons. Like I was looking at it this morning, and somebody said it. And I was like, shit. There's no.
You
I
see,
can't-
anytime you search for NXT
That's
on, let's
crazy.
say you search them up on Google,
there are
but
WWE PLEs announced, but there are no W. So if you look for if you go for
Wow.
there's a PLE
That's
schedule and you
crazy.
look it up in Wikipedia, right? Wikipedia has all the cards that have been completed plus the ones that have been announced for the year. So for upcoming events schedule right now, there are no NXT events announced right now.
Yeah, Cody
For
did.
2026.
Yeah, wow, that's crazy. There is nothing.
There's a AAA event announced. There's a Ray the Reyes, and it's definitely YouTube exclusive. But
and
there
that's been
is
put on YouTube,
that
right?
is YouTube, yes. And
And
there's
there.
the last PLE for NXT. I think it was Deadline, right? Deadline. Yeah, NXT
Yeah.
Deadline in December. And if you
Actually,
go to
there wasn't there the New Year's. There was the New Year's
no,
card
they
for
they
January.
had
That
they
was
had Halloween
on
Havoc.
TV.
Was that on
They had
TV?
Deadline and they had TV. So like the question here is like, are they going to continue to do PLE? I've actually argued that like it may be better for them not to do PLEs and to just do big events on TV, particularly like what we said before, which is if the broadcast like ratings are not going to get helped, that means that number that the NXT has is the number. So they may be better off just building towards events on TV.
Yeah.
Like every like 2 months or so, they do a big show on TV,
Yeah.
name show,
Yeah.
and that might actually be.
Well, that has
Yeah.
worked. That's been a strategy. It's worked well for AEW. You see the Grand Slam events. You
Yeah.
have the winners coming. You have they do Fighter Fest, Fight for the Fallen. They've had rarely televised. They've kind of built to almost like a pay-per-view show that's on TV where
Yeah, it's a grand slam in 2
not
weeks.
like and that's really I think it's been smart to do that because it builds right to your core audience for where your big contract money's coming from. And if NXT takes that, I mean, obviously they probably might be seeing AEW do it like this and want to give it a shot. It'll be interesting to see how they do it because that's not traditionally how NXT's done shows, and it's not traditionally how at least since the takeover started. But it would be kind of a back to their roots thing.
Yeah.
I think that would probably be, I think that'd probably be a good fit for them, especially on CW. I mean, to me, they should try to do that show as kind of like a territory show. That should be the feel and the vibe of it.
That would be
Yeah,
nice.
I mean, like, I think
I did like the old takeovers because the takeovers used to be on like in place of like a regular NXT show. It'd be, like,
Yeah,
a 2-hour
and it was
special.
like and then eventually they, when you start selling 16,000 seats in Brooklyn, obviously you're going to
Thank you,
start elevating that a bit. Yeah,
well, I mean, Ciampa and Samoa Joe and Shinsuke Nakamura.
well, the big one at first was Bailey and
Sasha
Mercedes Moné, and then you also had Kevin Owens versus
Finn.
Sami Zayn.
Yeah.
And was it Finn? Was it Finn and Kevin Owens?
I think if you're talking about
Finn and Kevin Owens was in Japan actually for Beast in the East.
Okay.
They actually did sell out that show, which kind of tells you like where NXT was at the time. Like at this point, like 8 years ago, they were like one of the biggest.
It's amazing how
watched
fast
WWE.
Dusty Rhodes really, Dusty Rhodes and a willing listening Paul Levesque really built that into something special, and it's amazing how fast Vince McMahon, John Laurinaitis, and Bruce Pritchard destroyed it.
I think the thing about that you have to remember about that is one is Cody was Dusty was booking, and the other part was they took all the indie talent and all the ROH talent and all the kind of like great talent that was out there and put them to work in a well-booked show, which was initially, right? So great talent, well-booked, and it hadn't been there, and they basically were giving it away on the network, more or less, right? So they had like a ready audience for that, and you were seeing stuff that you hadn't seen. It was like a very different thing. Like, and again, the problem was that the philosophy that was happening there is not a philosophy that Vince was going to book to, right?
No.
Because it was just a style that was not the house style that they wanted, right? And it's funny, like I always remember, it's like the thing with Vince that you got to remember in his defense is when he's put it on small guys, it's never worked out. So he put it on Eddie, he put it on Benoit, and he put it on Finn. Remember, he put it on Finn. He was ready to push Finn to the moon.
He got hurt that first day.
Finn Balor beat Roman Reigns clean as a fucking whistle.
Yeah.
And then he beat Seth Rollins, and he got hurt in that match, right, to win the first Universal title.
And he's been in the bottom of the mid card since.
Yeah, because effectively,
because he wasn't a Vince guy.
No, because Vince basically got he got the same kind of feel for the small guys. I can't put a small guy on top because they're not going to last. That's always been, I think, the thing for him is that his experience has been put a small guy on top, it doesn't work. And I think that I think they wanted Finn. They saw Finn as, I mean, if you remember Finn, I mean, Finn's a guy who plays really well to the camera, right? Handsome guy, camera loves him. But again, I think that it just didn't work out for him. I think again, what they need to figure out with this NXT show, I think we were talking about this before. AAA has figured out an identity, right?
Yeah.
It's not a show. It's not gonna be. I'm not gonna watch it over CMLL. I'm not gonna watch it over Dragon Gate. I'm not gonna watch it on AEW. But if I have it on in the background, it's fine, perfectly fine. I put the pay-per-view. It's perfectly fine. I think Borash and Taker and we talked about Savio. We talked about the guys who are there are doing a good job. But the bar was in hell for AAA. I think the talent is good. It's fun. It's interesting. I think NXT doesn't really know what
I like Mr. Iguana, man. I like Mr. Iguana.
I mean, it's just it should be to me. It should be like a serious TV promotion. You said you book it as a TV territory, build to a big show, and just treat it seriously. And eventually, the guys leave the territory. I think that's the way it should be played out.
Yeah,
right? And
it should be.
It's a little bit.
Yeah, it should be like that. But the problem with the NXT for the longest time was the logjam at top and the lack of elevation. Because people that are there shouldn't be there for more than a year or so. But it's a TV show.
Some of that was guys that didn't want to go to the main roster, like Ciampa and Gargano. They were like, we don't want to. We're going to retire. Well, they did.
They knew that they were they knew that how it was playing. I think it's
we think about guys Ricochet over the last couple of days has been talking about how he regrets having spent most of his prime in WWE.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think
man, he absolutely. I don't know if you saw that tweet, but if you didn't see his absolute,
I mean, he was talking
parking lot nuclear bombing of Jimmy Corderas. It's pretty.
It's great.
It's a mad. What do they describe in the movie A Christmas Story when Darren McGavin, the dads, the cuss words were still floating in the air above the city.
I think one thing that he talked about this associating in some of his base matches, and we've heard it from Daniel. Daniels has talked about it. Other people have talked about it because again. We forget that wrestlers are artists and they want to feel like they're doing something amazing and incredible and telling a story. And WWE is very
which is kind of a new thing for wrestlers too. It used to be all about the cash. Now you're conning the marks, but now it's different.
But I mean, again, even when you're doing the thing, but you want to feel like you're doing something again. The problem with WWE, it's kids TV to me, right? It's always been targeted at a much lower. It's a simpler show. It is it's at the level of Saturday morning cartoons. In terms of
exactly. I always thought the Attitude Era was porn for kids. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but it's just it was made to be. It was made to appeal to the baser instincts of 14-year-olds who've been left at home.
As a 14-year-old that was left at home, thank you so much for Sable, for Miss Jackie, for Sunny, for enlightening me as a child.
And objectively, we have we had adult forms of wrestling. And when I say adult storytelling, complex storytelling in the territories that existed. And a lot of that did
Magnum and Tully.
Yeah, I mean the problem is a lot of that didn't survive the Disneyfication of it. And I think that now that we have it back, and this is this is why I think some of the WWE fans have these violent reactions to AEW because these stories, oh my god, I can't understand these complex stories, right? And or it's just not the kind of storytelling that you're used to. And I think that
I think you're hitting an important nail on the head right now.
You're so right, man.
It's like why isn't the story being told like Dora the Explorer? Why aren't they repeating this? Why isn't like the narrator going like that's a shoe?
Yeah.
Did
Like,
you guys
How is
see
it the
that?
fact the biggest condemnation for WWE's audience? And I got nothing wrong with I have the WWE fans I know in actual life are nothing like the ones you counter on
Yeah.
Twitter or Reddit.
Yeah.
They're great, but
Twitter's not
the
real life,
biggest
yeah.
condemnation I have, and this is something almost all of them complain to me about in real life, is you have a 5-hour pay-per-view with 6 matches and 45 video segments in between each match, and it's like you're not a wrestling fan if you're not watching for wrestling if that's what you're watching. And it's like it's once you get a little bit more complicated for it's like people try to say that the Vince Russo Eric Bischoff stupid line, well, AEW doesn't have any storytelling. It's got tremendous storytelling. The problem is you just have it's like I mean you're talking about it's Faulkner versus Dr. Seuss.
I mean, I was telling the example. Go back and watch the Mox when Mox wins the shot at the title. It's the it's the Dynamite. It's the Dynamite that is the first Osprey and Will Osprey appearance. There's a battle royale and Kyle O'Reilly wins it, and he has this Mox match. That match, and I forget the date of that particular Dynamite. It's a great Dynamite. It's a very interesting Dynamite. I think Tanahashi's on there too, and so like it ends on Mox and KR. And they have this match, and the build and what
Talk
happens
about a
with
guy
that
I want
match.
to see fight Vader.
Yeah, but like Mox and KR, and they have this match, and years later, everything that happened in that match has been figured into the story of Mox over the last year. And Mox took the time to do the details of the submission and how it played out and the story between the two guys. And it's a really interesting, great story and very subtle over time. Or like what he's doing now with Takeshita, where if you look at Takeshita's matches, how Takeshita has been slowly closing the gap to Mox, and he got over him on the C2. And now they're gonna like have this rematch, but it's been a long-term story between these two men over time, right?
Starting from the IWGP title shot match.
Right. I mean,
I do also really like the story of Andrade having a baddie section.
Andrade, yes.
I love that. I love that.
Him walking over with taking the girl's camera, taking a selfie, and then putting his phone number in it. I'm just like, I lost my mind when I saw that.
I mean, I think, and I remember this.
I was laughing so hard.
I remember clearly when Andrade was released, right? So Andrade leaves WWE, and there's a certain segment of fans like, "Oh, whoa, he's not a big deal." Andrade's like, I'm like, dude, do you have eyes? Because the thing, I remember Andrade before he left, he was rounding into being one of the top guys in the world.
We wanted him in Arena Mexico. We wanted him in the G1.
He was so over in that C2. He's working like, and he goes off, and I understand why he left. He had personal things he wanted to take care of. Fine.
Yeah.
He comes back, and he looks like this, and he's working still at that level. And you can immediately tell the people who said that were crazy because every booker is racing to book him. Like, I think CML, New Japan, and AEW all want to give him title shots, right? They'll put him like a couple. They're like, holy shit! Because this guy, look at him, like look at how over he is.
The reliability factor is just kind of is hilarious because I think was he the guy that punched he punched Sammy Guevara in the face so he could get.
So did Eddie Kingston.
Yeah, that's true. Just so he could get out of his contract, and then it's like he just can't wait to get back out. And then
here's the thing: when
I don't think the thing is just he's just so undeniably talented. I mean, this is a guy. This is the first. I mean, Shinsuke Nakamura created the Intercontinental title, the IWGP Intercontinental title, and made that maybe the most over belt in the world. And the first person he lost it to was Andrade when he was under the mask.
Yeah,
and he's all like there's like these great videos of Naito the first times he sees Andrade, like it's like he's seen Jesus.
Right? Yeah, it's that's obviously.
He has, and like there's this great. If you've never seen it, there's a match where when he loses his mask. I don't know if you've ever seen that match. He's working. Is it
Atlantis?
He's working Atlantis, and so when he how the crowd gasps when he takes off the mask, the women are like.
They scream.
You could there's like a visible reaction, and like supposedly like they were sending him like dirty messages on social
Facebook.
Media.
It was on Facebook.
Yeah, I mean,
on Facebook, on Twitter, all of that. They were just saying, "I want to sit on your face, please."
Yeah, I mean, like
that kind of thing.
they're trying it on with him, and I think it's a good idea. I think it's you know what I think at some point I would like a Latino world champion, AW, and I think this is a perfect opportunity for it at some point. I mean, I know people are like, oh, who's going to face off this whole thing? They're like, we're building towards Osprey, and women's like, it doesn't at this point right now. You can get back
Andrade
to
versus
guys.
Osprey. Andrade
Well,
versus
no, I mean, like you can
Osprey.
if
I
you really
want that
want.
match so
Jesus.
bad. I want
No, I
that
mean
match
like
so
Swerve.
bad.
Swerve is right there. Hangman is right there. You can build like Kenny's right there. You can get it back to whoever needs to do it. But that's like that's
Oh,
like 7 months down the line. Let's do something
Yeah.
fun. Like from now
I
on.
really think they should have, when they had Pentagon and Phoenix, I think they should have tried to work them into that, getting a reign. But I'll say this: I think before this, it was going to be Bandito. I think was definitely going to be AEW World Champion within the next year and a
he
half,
still can.
and I think he's still probably going
I
to
think
be.
Oh
Bandito is
man,
going.
Bandito versus
Bandito's going to
Andrade.
be. I think Bandito's going to be world champion. I think that like remember how we asked about NXT? Well, there's another thing that's going on with this. AEW's hiring a bunch of people, a lot of people right now, and some of it is roster turnover because I think like it which is good, but
Guys go to
are they?
WWE. Guys go to
And I know
AEW. Guys go to New
we've had
Japan.
this rumor. We've had this rumor before. Are we maybe thinking that maybe they're getting ROH TV down the line? They're doing all this hiring, and if you're getting ROH TV, you're not taking the ROH belt off Bandito, right? Again,
No.
Bandito's
No.
so over that like if you wanted to sell a TV brand, like put the luchadors and put like a lot of like you can build a really cool TV brand.
Like,
It,
because we're talking about like the contract season, because it's starting right now, where guys who sign like those long-term deals in like 2021 and 2022 are coming up.
Yeah.
Some of those guys like we've been talking about the last couple of weeks is Roman Reigns. He won the Rumble, but we're still not sure where that's leading. Couple guys.
I'm gonna throw a curveball here on this,
Yeah.
which is isn't it interesting? I mean, like the thing about that is Vince McMahon signed all these guys when he's trying to sell the company in 2021, and he
Yeah.
signed them to long-term deals, and he didn't want them to leave, so he's like paying premium rates. That's not what what we hear is that's not what TKO is doing, and I think it's really interesting.
Arturo, you know who else is up this year, right? So the Usos and Paul Heyman.
And CM Punk, yes, I know. I will say that one thing that's really interesting isn't it interesting that we're hearing all these rumors about WWE offering contracts to New Japan talent and WWE signing New Japan talent?
Yeah.
Yeah, hello,
And it's just as AJ Styles just has his last WWE match.
I think it's really interesting because it basically and bringing and doing the luchadors and TKO, we think and we hear we obviously Ciampa was out here kind of confirming this, which is TKO is lowballing people, right?
Yes.
They're lowballing him to last contracts. So again, isn't it interesting that they're making offers to Japan? We know that Japan, the economy's weak, so if they're making an offer to Yuto Ice, or they're making an offer to Evil, or they're making an offer to Hiromu, a couple of those may already be signed as WWE talents. Those
Possibly.
offers are probably lower than they would have to offer to somebody to re-up. Right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Do you think any of this could be because Netflix is wanting them to push for a more international audience?
I mean, I think some of that is in there. I think TKO was always going to push for lower, for like a lower payroll. And I think again, like the thing is, again, TKO always pushes to reduce costs because that's what they do. They're not a UFC. The other part is like they're not trying to sell the well, we don't think they're not trying to sell the company like Vince was, and Vince was basically kind of protecting himself and like giving all these big contracts.
Yeah.
So
well,
if any
also, I think the key thing to keep these contract, the lowball offers in mind is the fact that 2 years ago when they were super mega hot, Cody wins Mania, they just everything's coming together. Their net profit was not that much. Brandon Thurston wrote about that, and a lot of that's because of the UFC side. Now they've had some big contracts with TV, massive deals, but and it's crazy to think that
they have a debt to service.
Yes, but they have also had a ton of debt, and they would love to get their payroll. They would love to get their labor costs back down below that 5% level they were a few years ago, which is insane because most labor overhead for a company is 50%.
I mean,
that's
like
crazy, 5%.
Well, no, but like to give an idea, like this is like why the mentality of Tony Khan versus like Nick Khan and WWE is different because Tony Khan's coming in from Premier League, the NFL, and both these leagues, as I said, like 50%.
Flexing gate.
Like no, but
real
like
businesses.
But 50% is going to the NFL players by CBA, or I forget exact number for the CBA. I know that the Premier League doesn't have a CBA, but the number for the actual number for the Premier League is higher. So the players in this Premier League actually get a higher than a 50%. Like, it's weird that the Premier League is more capitalist than like anything else because there is no cap. Like, you play whatever the hell you want, and at least officially, right? Officially, the players get a bigger share than like what the NFL players do. And here's the fun part: extra officially, there's stories about like your dad getting paid or like your family getting like a free house and shit. The kind of stuff that like happens as a scandal in the US.
Yeah.
Like, no, in major league in soccer in Europe, dude,
that's great.
There's stuff happening. Like, people are getting money from all sides. Like FIFA, come on, FIFA. And like,
FIFA's up there with, oh God, they're probably the most corrupt organization around.
Well, no, I mean, like the art mail. I mean, like, what's the joke? They would look at the NCAA and like the NCAA would laugh at like some of the stuff. Like, but anyway, I'm not going to get into that. But the story I'm going to say, like, look, essentially, like for Tony coming in and paying 25 or 30% of his payroll, I mean, he's mentally prepared. It's much lower than he's used to paying, right?
Yeah.
And I was like,
even if what's hilarious, it's much lower than what he's used to paying, but it's so
much higher.
These idiots, though, these stupid people. I mean, you have these grifters out here podcasting saying WWE is, saying AEW is paying too much money to its wrestlers. I think, did Bubba Ray Dudley say something like that? I hope he didn't.
I'm gonna speak to wrestlers directly right now
because they get 50% of the overhead. That's how every other business works. It's you guys are stupid.
And I'm coming at this from a guy. I'm coming at it as a guy. I've written pro union stuff for the CBA, for NBA. I've written. There's a piece out there. If you search my name and search something, it's called Better Angels. It's stuff that I've written about how kind of the profit sharing and what's fair and how the teams and how, like, I've written a lot on these finances. I helped with some of the cases for the players suing to get paid for the NCAA, which I never thought would happen in my lifetime.
Hell yeah.
But it did, right?
Thank you. That change.
Well, no, but like I actually
the NIL deals
so my mentor was one of the witnesses for the Northwestern case. If you're familiar with that particular case, and
I am.
And he was around the Ed O'Bannon case. It's Dave Barry. He's like my writing mentor. I used to write on his website, share stuff, and do that. And like, so I helped him with some of the data on that. Like, so I'm coming at this from an honest place. I am telling you right now that Hulk Hogan, right, kiboshing the union for WWE cost wrestlers billions of dollars, not millions. I said billions of dollars, because if you look at the payroll and you look at the profit and you look at what every other sport in the U.S. makes, right, in terms of the athletes versus the payroll, the athletes typically make, as BJ was saying, around 50% of the money that's coming in. If you look at the statements since WWE went public and calculate out 50% of EBITDA, like the earnings, it's cost you millions of dollars, right? And understand that, and I think I'm saying this like also, like right now, you may have gone past peak salary, right, on this last one, because like if TKO's cutting, there's less of a drive to do that. So it may be a good time for you to like get your long-term deal in. Don't take a pay cut like some of the guys have done. Take advantage of that, right? And again, as I said, like not having a union, not having collective bargaining has cost wrestlers.
This is why you're starting to see guys Arturo push for more years in in baseball.
Some breaking news: Tony Khan has just announced a branding deal with the NFL and AEW.
Really?
Yes.
What? Like, give me a little bit more detail. Is it a cross promotional thing?
Yes, it looks like he's going to. He's making Lucha Libre masks for all 32 NFL teams. He just announced.
See, remember, like we were talking about our old friend, the agent, and I wanted to mention that I think, given who we're talking about, and like you may be willing to, you may be able to get away with behaving like a carny when you're talking with WWE. But when you get into talking about AEW, people forget you're also talking like a carny at the NFL, right? And talking like a carny and behaving like a carny against the NFL means the NFL eventually is going to call up somebody and get you sent to Siberia. Because I've talked about it. There is no league that defends the shield more than the NFL, right?
Yeah. Yeah. If you wanted to see it, it was announced on Compass on the Beat. I sent you I DM'd it to you, Arturo. That's
That's pretty
amazing.
cool. I mean, like, I know that like WWE has done that kind of thing before, and I think that like WWE has done that thing with NFL, but I think like this is a good kind of
CMLL
move
also
forward.
had that NFL
Yeah, I think that
partnership
like
also.
I think that like whatever, if I was advising AEW, I would tell them to lean hard and like whatever extra properties they want to do with ROH, like lean into the Latino aspect, lean into the CML partnership, because I think that's money and that's how you make yourself kind of a viable partner like they're doing now. I think to give Tony Khan credit, I think that he's focused on the long term, creating a positive relationship with his partners, right?
Yeah. Whether
And
that
that
be HBO
really
Max,
means that
Turner Networks, or the NFL.
right, and that means that they're more willing to give him opportunities long term, and it means that they're more loyal to him and they work with him long term. And I think again, he's thinking in a slightly different way than like TKO is, which TKO I think is just trying to get as much money. They're thinking like a capital firm. They're trying to get as much money out of the horses they can, right? And that
Yeah.
has some cost, which brings us back to like this is why maybe NXT may not be getting a PLE deal, right? Because who's going to step up and do that?
Hey man, this is
I
amazing,
mean,
man.
the faucet's got to turn off somewhere, right?
Yeah. Hey, because we're nearing the end of this, do you guys have because I'll probably put this out today. What do you guys have for the Super Bowl?
I think I would take the Patriots and the points. That's what I have,
How about you, BJ?
and I've said this from the go.
I mean, I think Darnold turns the ball over too much, but I'm probably going to go Patriots. I just like variable style of coaching. I think I really like the way they run the football. To be honest, I keep switching back and forth on it. I think the Seahawks defense is the best unit in the whole game.
I
But
think the Seahawks have a lot of offensive talent. I think, but the thing the Patriots is do too, right?
yeah,
And it comes. I think it's
they
going to be a
also don't
really
have a they also don't have a receiver like Jackson Nigbus Smith. I mean, Diggs just
yeah.
isn't that guy anymore. But I think that he could be the game changer here.
I think the Patriots have a better talent on the under center in terms of like I think quarterback and I think running backs, right? I
Yeah.
do think the offensive talent for Seahawks is better and the defensive talent, but like again, I think that the Patriots defense, but DVOA, which is one of the advanced rankings, has like this team is like 1-2, right? So, and I think like my take is like I think this is going to be a very close game. And this is why I say like take the points, right? Take the points. Whoever's gotten put there, take the points. And it's just kind of interesting that I think that like I mean I think honestly if you look at the season, the Seahawks are the best team in the league, right?
Yeah.
But they're not that much better than the Patriots. Is kind of my feel, right? So I think either team. I mean, like again, I think either team can win, which I said like take the points, right?
Yeah.
I think it's kind of
That's
been the NFL the whole year. This is just the NFL's built to have parity, but even more so this year. I mean, look how you expect. It's just I think it's just kind of God punishing us. It's kind of like it's like look, we finally get the Chiefs out of the Super Bowl. Let's get let's get somebody new in there. All right, the Patriots are going to win the AFC title game. Let's have the Seahawks back in there again. It's like, okay, we've already been down this road, but I think I think this will be an interesting game. I think this was a crazy year for the league, and I think if you were the Bengals or one of these teams that this was your year to step up and you didn't, I think you're really going to regret it because
I
I
mean,
don't
I don't think
think we're going to have parity like this next year. I think
I don't. I think that the best teams got to where they needed to be, right?
True.
I was thinking about like that Patriots game like the AFC Championship game, and people were complaining about it. But like when I was watching that game, and like I mean, I thought Denver and New England were probably the best two teams in the AFC, and New England.
I mean, I'll be honest. I think Denver probably would have beat the hell out of, or at least I think Denver would have won the game. if
No, I
Bo
mean, like,
Nix doesn't get hurt.
if Bo Nix doesn't get hurt, but like the players that showed up, I was watching that game, and the Patriots had control of that game when the weather went to shit, right? So my feel is, obviously if they play the game without the weather, I think the Patriots win like 14, 17 points, right, in that game, because there are a couple of drives there that they got held up, and a lot of that was because the wind was so bad that they really couldn't throw the ball in in the end zone short.
Yeah.
They couldn't throw it short. And that made a difference. And I think, again, I thought the Rams and the Seahawks were the best two teams in the NFC, and I thought the Seahawks were the better team in that game, right? And some people will complain
clearly.
I think we got the right game, right? People will complain about the Bills, but the Bills keep coming up short, and they fucked up, right?
The Bills got rid of the wrong guy too in the offseason.
Oh yeah, oh no, definitely.
I mean, the thing is it's hard to talk about Josh Allen because I'm like, they made him MVP last year when Joe Burrow clearly should have been the MVP. And it's like, oh, well, he got in the playoffs, but it's at the same time as okay, well, you see what happens when you take Burrow out of the Bengals. They go from being a playoff team or a near playoff team to being, just an absolute disaster.
Wasn't Flacco on the team for about?
He was. Well, he's still on the team. They signed him to next year. He's going to be the backup. And so somehow the Bengals, who didn't make the playoffs, had they had two quarterbacks in the Pro Bowl, which basically a flag football game.
I thought Flacco was actually pretty good. I think they actually had. I thought the Bengals had actual personnel issues.
They did pretty well. The thing is their defense. They for the last 2 years. I think in the last 30 years, there's only been one other team in the NFL to score 40 points in a game and lose. The Bengals have done that like 6-7 times the last 2 years.
That's a great
or maybe
record
it's 34 points. And it's like, yeah, they have a defense that's just maybe one of the worst units in the history of football. And it's because of how the franchise operates. They had an all-pro safety, Jesse Bates. They let him slip and go away. And it's like, if you keep just a couple players, just enough where you can just keep you can stop a team once or twice in the second half. They're in the playoffs. They're probably in a Super Bowl by now. They may have won one by now, but it's the ultimate. It's funny because the Bengals are supposed to be, a family-owned kind of team with a small mentality, and they view themselves as a small market, and we're not going to spend money. We don't have to. They only paid a lot for their skill position players because Burrow was holding them hostage. But it's also this kind of mentality that you see places like WWE have, and even the greater NFL, where it's like, we could invest a little bit and, make this a better product, but why do that?
I once put together a plan for the operation of an NFL team, right? A proposal. I'm not going to say which team it was. And
can you tell us the city?
I can't tell you the city. No.
How about the state?
I can't tell you the state either. No, I can't.
Can you say which region?
East
Coast, West Coast,
yeah,
East Coast.
I'm cool, I'm feeling alive. Don't be calling my phone, trying to kill my vibe. Bitch, I work too hard to get this fly. I'm feeling good to that, 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 good to that. I'm feeling good to that, 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 good to that.
I just want to say thank you for BJ for coming on here and blessing us with this time and having this fun conversation because this is just to tear down the walls, as one Mr. Jericho would say. We've been sort of marathon recording, and BJ, you're always a great hang, man. Like I said, like I told you, personally, you're a great hang. It's always awesome to have you here on the show. You're a part of the network. It's awesome. It's awesome having you here, man. These conversations we've been having over the last year, man. I just love having you here, man. I'm so thankful to call you
thanks,
a friend.
Man. I appreciate it.
To be able to call you a friend, that's awesome. And that's the part of pro wrestling that's awesome is when you can connect with people and just say, yeah, that's my friend. And BJ, so much respect to you, man.
Oh, thanks, guys. I appreciate it, Larry. You're awesome. Arturo, you awesome, and F Ice.
Fuck.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, there you go.